This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari from the western fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. My name is James Henry, David is on camera, and that is a beautiful herd of Wildebeest that are grazing in the gorgeous autumnal afternoon light. The first part of our drive is always dedicated to the kids. You can talk to us using the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And the rest of you, I'm afraid, will have to wait 45 minutes, and then you can bombard us with your questions, insults, jokes, and general banter about the wilderness. Lovely to have you all on board. It's a glorious afternoon here, and we'll spend a little bit of time with these Wildebeesten before heading down south and eventually east and then north again. Doesn't that sound like quite a trek? It won't really be. It'll take us all of about 10 minutes. But hopefully we'll see lots of interesting creatures on the way. Let us now go across to Lauren, who has got a reptile to begin with.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I do have a reptile, one of my favourites out here, and it is in fact the water monitor lizard who is basking in the sun. I would quite like to bask in the sun too today, but welcome on board, everyone. My name is Lauren and I do have BK on camera, and it's the most perfect afternoon for you to all jump on board with us. 25 degrees Celsius and 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have families and countries joining us from all over the world. So please do send in your questions. Anything you want to know about the environment here or the animals, please do send them in and we'll try and do our best to answer them. So this little water monitor lizard over here is a reptile, and what that does mean is that they're solar paneled, they're solar heated. They require the energy from the sun. Oh, he's watching us all. Hello. Very handsome there. They require the heat and the energy from the sun in order to get their own energy. It's different from mammals. It's very different from us. So in order to get moving and to go about their daily duties, feeding, hunting, moving, swimming, they absolutely must get their energy from the sun. So I think this one here, as well as having a good look at all of us, is enjoying the sunshine very much. Olivia, you're 9 years old and you're asking, do we ever see animals fight? Yes, we do, Olivia. We do. And it's mostly the males, to be perfectly honest. In general, it's mostly males that will fight. And they're either fighting over females or food, two of the most important things to boys. But we occasionally see females fighting too, especially your cats, especially your lions and your leopards. Maybe not... Oh, he's moved. Completely vanished. Can you believe it? There's another one though. Can you see the other one from here, BK? It's slightly more to the left. Or maybe this one's vanished too. No. It's still there. There we go. Well done. This is a second one, a second water monitor. So Olivia, yes, we do see animals fight. Not just your cats. Hyenas will fight. Hyenas mainly fight over food. They're notorious for it. Elephant bulls, they will also fight. They get very, very boisterous and very competitive over the females, so they will fight. There's another animal that fights a lot out here, and it is the hippopotamus that I am just about to show you. His name is Dewey, but he's gone underwater. When he pops his head back up in just a moment, we're going to show him to you. And hippo males are also notorious for fighting. But they're terrible at it, Olivia. They're not good. Elsie, you're 14 and you're asking, do hippos have any predators? That is a really, really good question. Ah, there he is. There he is, BK. Sorry. Dewey's playing with that. He's watching us, just like the lizard was. But he keeps going underwater. See? We see you, Dewey. They can hold their breath up to 6 minutes. That's why he keeps on going underwater. And you have asked me a question that I have magically just forgotten. It's, hippo predators. Goodness me. I am so sorry. Yes, the only real predator for a hippo especially a young hippo, a calf, would be lions. Lions would try to take a hippo calf if they got the opportunity. But generally, young hippos are surrounded by others in a bloat or a pod of hippos, other females, dominant males, and their mum. So it's not often that lions would get access to a hippo, but the main threat to a hippo is another hippo. A main threat to any animal is another member of their own species. That's the biggest threat. So hippos don't have too many predators. Their biggest worry is lions and other hippos. So I'm going to have a little look around this dam for a very famous leopard of mine, see if he's still around. But while I do that, we are going to send you back across to James and his wildebeest.
There is our wildebeest, and there are our wildebeest. The plural for wildebeest is wildebeest, I think. I'm not sure. You might say wildebeests or wildebeesta. David, in Afrikaans, would it be wildebeesta? Yes, there it is. We'll just say gnoos, shall we? It's easier. The herd has done very well this year, and I say that because very few of them have been knocked off by lions. Staff on age 9 wants to know if there's been any new animals discovered in Africa. Staffron, I think you'll find that the last animal or mammal discovered in Africa, I don't know when that would have been. They probably discover bats and the odd bird every so often, so maybe one a year, I'm going to say. But remember that all insects are animals too, and they'll discover new kinds of insects all the time. So probably, tens of insects every year, maybe even more than that. But they won't discover new big mammals, so it's not like they'll wander off into the Congo rainforest and suddenly find that there's a saber-toothed panther been living there undiscovered for the last 2,000 years. That's almost never going to happen these days. Sorry, I can't tell where we're looking these days. Let me just go forward a bit. So that's almost never going to happen, but you are correct that they will discover new things like an obscure bat species that no one's ever found before in a rainforest, or a bird species, a tiny bird species, or what often happens is that a bird is found and it's very similar to another bird species and would probably have been classified as the same bird species, but somebody's noticed some kind of a difference. Maybe they've done some genetic analysis, and now suddenly, instead of one species that's a bit different in different areas, they've actually got two species of bird. So that happens from time to time. Christoph, all the way in South Africa, which is of course where we are, so it's not so much all the way. You're aged 8 and you want to know how much a wildebeest eats in a day. I don't know, Christoph. I'm going to say around about... Well, let's work it out. Big wildebeest bull probably weighs about 250 kilos. Just to make it easy. A big elephant bull weighs 6 tons. 250 goes into 6 tons, 6 times 4 times, which is 24 times. Here we go with my maths again. And so I guess it must eat roughly 300 kilograms divided by 24. So let's divide it by 25. And 300 goes into 25, or 25 goes into 300, 12 times. It can't be right. Yes, that is right. 12 times. So I'm going to say they eat roughly 12 kilos. Their energy requirements will be higher than that of elephants because they are smaller and therefore they have a higher mass-specific metabolic rate. All that means is that the smaller you are, the more food you need per kilogram of your existence. And so I'm going to estimate between 14 and 16 kilograms a day for a 250 kilogram wildebeest bull. There you go, Christoph. How's that? I can't hear you clapping, Christoph. I think that perhaps my earpiece is broken. I hope you're clapping very loudly at home. Might also very carefully, or if you listen carefully, be able to hear a woodpecker. Gigi, the oldest animal here is me. I am 563 years old. I know I don't look like that. That's because I take my vitamins and I do my exercises every day. The second oldest animal here is probably an elephant bull. And I would guess that elephant bull, the oldest one I've seen here was probably about 50 or 60 years old, maybe 50 or 60. But the elephant bulls don't live here, so they will come through here and then go away again. Then you might find that there's some very old bateliers, for example. There's a beautiful batelier eagles that live on this reserve, and they could live up to 40 years apparently, so maybe one of them. Good, let's go across to Lauren. She's got a beautiful insect for you.
I have an animal that really doesn't live long at all. They have very, very short lifespans. They can live maximum 1 year, but that's normally for the bigger species of butterflies. The smaller species, like this one, they really don't live long at all. And if you look at the back of this one's wings, I think it's a spotted joker. You see how it's all tatty at the end of the wings? It looks like it's, well, it doesn't look like it's in the best of condition. Very, very tatty wings. That shows you that it's nearing the end of its life cycle. Some butterflies only live anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. It really depends on the species. There's many, many different species of butterfly. And this one is clearly just clinging on to this grass. You can see it's got its 2 antennae at the front, and then it's holding on against the wind with its 6 legs. Butterflies are insects, and all insects have 6 legs. If you don't have 6 legs, then you're not an insect. And that's exactly why spiders are not insects. Some people think they are, but they're not. They have 8 legs, of course, so that means that they are arachnids and not insects. So this beautiful butterfly here, they will all disappear, every single butterfly, as we go a little bit deeper into winter, I'm afraid, which is hard. It's hard to imagine having no butterflies around. Rosie, you're 8 years old and you're asking what animals we see the most of. I think probably the most common animal that I always see is impala. Impala are everywhere, but I'm happy with that because they happen to be my favourite antelope. James was showing you some wildebeest, and what I will do, I will try to find some impala for you. They are incredible, but they're very, very common. We see a lot of them out here. But if we have to say what is the most numerous animal out here, it would probably be a termite. Termites, insects, during summer they are everywhere. And they're very, very important to the ecosystem out here because they do build termite mounds. And I can't actually see a single termite mound to show you right now, but I will find you one and I'm going to show you exactly the type of structure that termites build. They're probably the most numerous in terms of number, but I always see impala. They are everywhere. Now, I just got word that Tingana did cross the wall. So we lost our leopard this morning because I think he went for a sleep while I broke my car door. Yes. And he had a lovely snooze, not worrying about the car at all. And I'm now going to have to change my plan to try and find him. If he's gone deep into the drainage, because it's very hot now. If you're a leopard and you're covered in hair, the last thing you want to do is be out in the sunshine like this. It's winter now. It's definitely winter. It's cold in the morning, cold in the evenings, but during the day the sun really does pop out and give us glorious weather. Blue skies. I'm just going to turn my game drive radio down. We have a game drive radio where we all talk to one another and we share information about the sightings. Emma, you're 10 years old, and Kate, you're 7, and you're asking me an excellent question. And as I answer you, I'm just going to keep my eyes on this drainage because my favourite leopard apparently walked down here. Now, who's more of a successful hunter, leopards or hyenas? In this area where we are, we're very close. We're on the western fringes of the Kruger Park in the northern sector of the Sabi Sands. In this area, I would say leopards. Leopards are not always successful. They're said to only have a successful hunt 16% of the time. The rest are misses. The rest are fails. But hyenas here, they are predominantly scavengers. And what that means is they will search, they will smell, they will use their nose, and they will steal from other animals, mainly leopards. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's incredibly resourceful. Hyenas have a bad reputation for it, but it's really not a bad thing. But I think here, leopards are more successful hunters. Maybe in other areas that will differ. In the Masai Mara, hyenas definitely hunt a lot more than they do scavenge. So it really does depend on the area. I'm just going to pop my nose in here and just have a look for any spots. I would love to introduce you all to my leopard. He'll be sleeping somewhere. I am more than sure of it. I know this cat. And he really, really loves his sleep. Okay, while I search for Mr. Tungana for you all, we are going to send you back across to James, who's driving.
We are heading towards the little water holes around the place. We are going towards a mud pan coming up. Oh, there's a hornbill. Maybe there will be a beefalo in the mud pan. There always used to be. And this hornbill is sitting in a tree that looks a bit sad. But the tree is not sad. The tree is simply putting or shedding its clothes for the winter. While most things, or most mammals, get a thicker coat for the winter, the trees, of course, lose their leaves. And this is a wisteria tree, and it's losing its leaves slowly as winter comes along. What on earth is that? You hear that, David?
I do. Like he's up there. It's hard to the sun.
There's something funny going on in this tree behind us. I'm just going to reverse. You hear grrr, grrr. Oh, there's a woodpecker. There it goes. It's gone. It was a very fast woodpecker. It was a cardinal woodpecker. I can show you a picture. Don't ever use your cell phone while you're driving, kids. You shouldn't really be driving at this stage, but if you do happen to find yourself driving, don't use your cell phone while you're doing it. Maybe you live in a country where you're allowed to drive. I wasn't allowed to drive till I was 18. There he is. Hello, Antonio, aged 7. You're obviously going to be a mathematician or geometrician or a land surveyor. The reserve is 1,200 hectares, so 1,200 hectares, and that's about 2,500 acres. So, it's about 2,500 rugby fields big. No, more than that. It's about double that. 5,000 no, it's not quite that. It's about 2,400 rugby fields big. One hectare is 100 meters by 100 meters. Sounds like a lot of rugby fields, doesn't it? Oh, there's a butterfly as well. Oh, and it's now flying away. What a nasty butterfly. Let us hope it lands. It has landed. There it is. It is a vagrant, an African vagrant. Daniel, in Florida, not all the animals have got territories. No, some of them have got home ranges. Now, that can be a little bit confusing, but a home range is an area that an animal will move within And a territory is an area that an animal will defend from other animals, normally of the same species. So a good example is leopards. Leopards like to live in a particular area, and they like to chase other leopards out of that area. Elephants are not like that. Elephants live in an area, and they'll move widely within that area, and lots of different groups of elephants can live in the same area. There we are. We shall now continue. This waterhole has no beefaloes in it, or anything else other than one African vagrant. Ruhan, that very much depends on the butterfly. Some butterflies fly for days. They'll land every night, but they'll fly most of the day, and some butterflies hardly fly at all. So monarch butterflies that do their migrating in North America will fly for days and days. I don't think they fly at night. And others, like I suppose some of the butterfly species we get here, will hardly fly at all. Forward a bit. The only reason I'm stopping at this impala, everybody, is because he's looking deeply concerned into the bush. But unless he starts going, pow, 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 I'm going to assume that he's just looking surprised because he's received some distressing news. Oh, he's going up onto a termite mound to go and see what he can see. That's what I would do if I couldn't see anything. I'd go up onto a termite mound. Oh, he's perfectly perched behind a bush. Ah. And he has a friend. A friend who thought he was hiding from us, but is not. Now, there's something interesting here I'd like to point out to you, and that is that for our eyes, that impala's color, that reddish color, same hair, same color as my wife's hair, is very easy to see for us, correct? If it was gray, it would be much harder. If it was green, it would be much harder. But green is not a pigment that's easily manufactured by an animal. So, why is it red? And the answer is that it's red because the predators don't see that color. Various shades. So although that's really easy for us, now this impala is very confused about what it is that we want and why we're looking at him. He knows he's not a leopard or a wild dog. Distant they are to a certain extent. Most of the animals are used to us, but you can see this impala is pretty nervous of us. So what he's doing there is he's basically saying, I'm afraid of you. But some animals will not react like that. Some are completely relaxed around us. It's very seldom that they will alarm call at a human being like this. This is very strange. We're just looking behind us because we're wondering if there isn't a predator there. Isn't that an interesting noise? How very strange. Well, off we go then. I think we might just reverse quickly to make sure there isn't a leopard behind us. Don't see any leopards. Yes, the animals can definitely hear me when I'm talking to you, Sam. Absolutely they can. They're not sitting far away from me most of the time. Are we just being blind here always? The impala just afraid of us. I think it's just afraid of us. Its friend didn't shout at all. Very interesting. We'll carry on searching around here. You go back to Lauren and find out how search is going.
My search is not so fruitful so far. This is a beautiful drainage that Ngala has came into. It's incredibly thick. It's so dense. We're going very slowly. One, to make sure Wendy doesn't get injured again. And two, to try and see if we can spot a cat who might be snoozing here. It's going to be very, very difficult. He may not even be here. He could have just been venturing. BK, do you want to take that? And he could be out the drainage by now. I always think it's... Look, you've got to take risks out here. So I'm just searching for him. And then we will pop out and head to some water holes for this afternoon. I also want to catch up with Ribbon. There's so much to do. Oh, Ngala. He'll definitely be flat. It's just a decision which way to go. Murray and Ben, you are asking what is the toughest animal to kill for a leopard? Oh, my goodness, what a question. I would say leopards would not, they're solitary hunters, so they would not kill an animal as big as a buffalo, for example. You need much more power behind that one. Lions would take down a buffalo cooperatively, but a leopard, not so much. But I think the biggest challenge, in my opinion, for a leopard is warthog. And we have some expert warthog killers out here. Hukamuri, one of the male leopards, is one of them. And it requires a lot of precision, a lot of skill. And of course, warthogs are equipped with huge tusks, not even the ones you see, but there's actually also other tusks on the lower jaw. And it's an incredibly dangerous feat for a leopard. And yet some of them are incredible at it. So I would probably say warthog is a tough one. You've got to be experienced in order to catch a warthog. But I think a big antelope, we've seen many of our leopards take down Ngala. That would also be difficult, especially the larger ones. They're big animals. Lots of animals are difficult to hunt, especially if you're on your own. I don't think it would be easy at all. Okay, we're just going to pop out of this drainage now. Don't want to get stuck. No, we did that this morning, so we don't want to do that again this afternoon. Okay, BK, I'm going to pass you this branch. Palashka, you're 11 years old from India. My dream country to visit. Top of my list. You're asking if a leopard scavenged from another animal, what animal would it be? Leopards are so opportunistic. They're so opportunistic. They would take anything they can get. They know it's feast or famine out here, but most commonly they scavenge from hyenas. And I've seen it. I've witnessed it myself. A leopard take some sort of body part. Are we going to make this? Are we going to make this, BK? Yes, we are. From a hyena's mouth, right out of a hyena's mouth. One-on-one, hyenas and leopards are not threats to one another. We saw that this morning. We had Ngala this morning and Falco, the hyena. They walked right by one another. They don't like each other, but they're also not too scared of one another. And therefore, I would say most commonly, leopards will scavenge from hyenas, if they get the chance, of course. It's all about opportunity. But a leopard would not walk up to a pride of lions and try to scavenge from them. That's far too dangerous. But the other way, vice versa, lions would scavenge from leopards. Absolutely. They're bigger, they're stronger, they've got a lot more muscle behind them. And if they could, they would. Okay, I'm going to do a loop for Tingana. He could easily be snoozing at the side of the road. So we've got a rough idea of where he went. I know the usual roads that he normally takes. So it's time to do all those routes and see if we can see any signs of him. You'll be surprised what this place looks like in winter. You'll be shocked. You'll be able to see through the thicket for miles. You can see very, very far. And therefore, if there is a leopard down there, in the winter, we'll be able to see them. But in summer, I'm afraid, it's just so thick and so lush, we can't see anything. Okay, I am very intrigued to know how James got on with his alarming impala, so let's go back to him and find out.
I think they were alarming at us. I don't think they were alarming at anything else. We are now at a waterhole on the far southern end of the reserve. We'll go and see what's happening there. What a great plethora of creatures awaits our arrival. What vast swathe of life will be cavorting around in the water. Hello, Liam, 7 in Florida. I imagine that the temperatures here are pretty similar to the ones you get at home. I mean, I know Florida's big, so it's fairly variable there. But it doesn't get very cold here in winter. It probably drops to around 45 degrees Fahrenheit on the coldest day. And then in the middle of the day, it'll go up to 72, 73 most days. And then in summer, it does get very hot. It gets up to about 98 to 100 degrees, maybe sometimes 102 or 3. And at night, it doesn't drop much below sort of 72 odd. So I think the difference between here and where you live, I'm imagining, if you live anywhere near the sea in Florida, is that it's not humid here. So it's a dryish kind of a heat. It doesn't get humid like it does in Florida, but I imagine otherwise that the climate is probably fairly similar. I think the other side of, there's a grebe there and some lilies. The grebe is underneath the weaver's tree. You see it?
Not really.
Keep going. Just as down, tilt down. There it is. Oh, Casper, not many mammal families do the dads stay and help with the kids. I suppose they do a little bit in baboons. But if there's an unrelated male baboon, he can often kill kids or kill the little ones. A little bit in the monkeys, but same sort of story with the baboons. Then with wild dogs, the father plays a role. He helps look after the babies. Lions, not so much. Leopards, definitely not. Elephants, definitely not. Buffalo, no, not really. So mostly not. Ooh, a monitor lizard. Yes, well spotted, David. Now I know you saw one earlier, but probably that one was probably resting upon the tree. And this one is now hunting. Isn't that cool? Look. Look at that. I know what he's looking for. How cool is that? Look, there's another one. They might actually mate. Yes, exactly, Liam. That's quite correct. If there's no sun that day, they will have less energy and they'll have to do less moving around. I think this is a bit of a mating display that we're seeing going on here. How fascinating, eh? I wonder where the other one went. Now that looks like a little crocodile swimming across the water. They're not very closely related to crocodiles at all. They look so uncomfortable when they're on land, but very comfortable in the water, hey? Disha, they eat things like eggs, insects, frogs, tadpoles, fish if they can get them, probably small lizards. They might even eat tiny snakes. They'll pretty much eat anything that they can catch. As for how long they live, I think they live quite a long time, but I don't know for sure. I'm going to say about 10 years, maybe even more, maybe up to 20 years. That was really special, actually, to see that. Cool. Let us move along. Hooray! Let's go up to andBeyond Ngala now, where Eric has found some signal and he'd like to say hello to all of you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to andBeyond Ngala. My name is Eric. Marcel is behind camera, as always. We were off on a wild goose chase for the last half an hour. We actually found some pretty fresh tracks of a female lion that was crossing the riverbed, so really nice, fresh, clear tracks. And then she started heading behind us in a westerly direction, and we thought it's a bit strange that she's moving around in the middle of the day. We thought that she was trying to move towards some areas to go off to hunt, and so we were circling that area and trying to find any fresher signs of her, but we were unsuccessful, and then we had a slight issue with our signal. So we've come back into the central parts of the reserve. We're driving along the southern part of the riverbed and just trying to see what we can find this afternoon. I think our plan for the afternoon is eventually head back towards those lines for a number of reasons. Firstly, they were hunting. Ooh, that's a good question. Ella's asking which animal hunts most frequently, and I would have to say if we're looking at the animals that we spend some time looking for and following, the larger carnivores, it would probably be wild dogs. If there are big packs of wild dogs, sometimes 20 or 30 animals in one pack, and they'll look to hunt sometimes twice a day. They might even make 2 kills in the morning, and then they'll still go hunting in the afternoon. And so they've got lots of mouths to feed, and that would probably be the number one most frequent hunter in my eyes. You're looking at things, I guess, little birds, insectivorous birds. They'll probably catch insects constantly throughout the day, but I don't think that really counts too much. Yeah, so those lions were hunting late on this morning, and that's why we're wanting to go and have a look to see if they're around. And then they're also moving quite far into the northern section of the property, and if they decide to carry on and walk a great distance this evening and tonight, they might cross out by tomorrow. And so I'd like to just show you them one last time. in case they do happen to cross out, and then we go another period of 2 weeks or so without them coming back into the property. We are getting pretty close to a small little waterhole just around the corner. We've got some impalas here. Ooh. Daniel and Nicholas are asking who's got the best camouflage here. And for me, it is definitely a leopard. That's the first thing that comes to mind. They've just got this amazing ability to disappear behind the smallest piece of grass, and that's why they've got those black spots in that golden coat, for that exact same reason, is just to make sure that they can blend in. And because they're quite a shy animal, they tend to, oh, sorry Marcel, let's see if we can get that bird. It's quite a nice light. They tend to like to remain hidden, and so they're very good at finding cover. So I think leopards are the best ones. How's that? It's just a very interesting bird that's out in the open. I hope it doesn't fly. See, there we go. That's a nice view of it. Right out in the open, and look at that bright red bill. Look at the white barring at the end of the tail over there. You might see its mouth open, or the beak open every now and again. It's calling. It's called a green woodhoopie. It used to be called the red-billed woodhoopie, but the name has since changed, and it's a bit unusual to see it by itself. Usually they're in quite a large flock, sometimes of over 10 individuals. The light isn't showing it now. It looks pretty black on picture, but as soon as the light catches it in the right way, it's this beautiful array of oranges of blues, of greens, purples. It's a nice view there. Okay, so I think we might just stick around this small little waterhole that we've arrived at and see if there's any more bird life. If there's any cool, interesting birds, we'll see if we can show them to you. This woodhoopie, I think, is looking for the rest of the family. So we're going to send you back to Djuma for now. I think Lauren is at the Hyena den at the moment.
Perfect timing, everybody. Look who's out. Sorry, Andrew, I'm live. I didn't copy that. Sorry, someone's trying to reach me on the radio. The copies are out. Now, I got screenshots from you all yesterday, and I have determined Cup 1 and Cup 2, and I think this is a good start to sort of recognize the cups. So I'm just going to bring up the photos, bear with me. Now, if you look at their face, they're starting to fight over the nipple. This is where it all begins. If you look at their face, one is much paler in the face and slightly bolder than the other one. This is Cup 2. The one that's got a lot more sort of darker coloration and hair on the face is Cup 1. They're fighting. They're starting the strive. The struggle. We haven't seen much signs of them striving for dominance. So this one at the back here that you're looking is having a little itchy scratchy. I think that's the submissive one. I think that's the one that's paler in the face that we're going to call Cup 2 for now. Oh no, wait. Let me see you both together. Now I'm confused. They look very, very similar. Yes, no, I was wrong. The one at the behind is slightly bolder and patchier. That's Cup 2. So the one that's out now is Cup 1. I'm going to try and stick to those names for now, just for when we're trying to log all the information about them, take photos of them, get nice close-ups of their genitals. That's what we're going to go with. So I hope you were all able to see the difference. The one that's got the little head up now, that one is Cup 2. I'm so happy we got here right on time. So it is now time The kid drive is complete. Thank you for all your comments and questions, everyone. And we will now open the drive to everyone. So please, everybody send in your lovely comments and questions. And of course, kiddies, keep sending in yours too. We'll try to answer everybody's. Oh, they're getting so brave. Hello, guys. This is BK. Are you happy, BK? You didn't get to meet them. So yes, cup 1, the one that's further down the hill, seems... Oh, we've got to leave. Oh, delicious. We have a vegan hyena on the loose. Yes, the one with the patchier hair is definitely smaller, marginally, but there's a difference. One is slightly smaller than the other, for sure. Oh, everybody's talking about how cute they are. Aren't they just adorable? I'm loving watching them explore. Oh, many of you are saying one has a tick on its ear. Okay, I haven't been able to see this. Is it cup 1? Is it cup 2? Left ear, right ear? Let's have a look. Of course, this is when they decide to have a fight behind the tree. Ticks are normal, especially when they're inside a den like this. Ticks are very, very normal. Okay, Kirst can see it. I think it's cup 2 on the right ear. This one here at the back, BK. Yeah. Oh yes, I see it. I see it. Yeah. Ouch. You have a tick, little one. Get Mama to pull it off and eat it. Ziggy, what an interesting question. It really depends on the sex. We really don't know what sex these cuppies are. And if we even tried to guess, it would just be that. It would just be a guess. And if they were both females, then they'll be sisters. And most likely there will be a bond there. Yes, absolutely. They'll be part of the same clan. And they most likely will never disperse or leave that clan, and they will have a lifelong bond, yes, because they'll be at the same rank or similar rank, and it will be important to have your sister right next to you. Oh, look at this other one, deliciousness. Oh, they're both going to fight over the stick here. Oh. Too many sticks to choose from. Stick heaven. But yes, if one is male and one is female, the female will be always dominant, and most likely around 2 years, the male will disperse and look for another clan that will take him in, where he can eventually settle and start mating with the females, and therefore there will be no lifelong bond. So it really depends on what gender they are. If they're both males, they'll probably both disperse, and I'm actually not sure if they would both try to get into the same clan or not. I would imagine not. So, Hun, you're 8 years old and you're asking if hyenas are related to cheetahs, maybe because they've both got spots. No, not even a little bit. So, hyenas are part of their own little family called Hyenidae. And cheetah are part of a completely different group, and they make up the Feliforma, the cats. They all come under the same order. This is just different ways that we group together the animals. They are both carnivores. So they're closely linked in that respect, but they're not related. Hyena's closest relative is a dwarf mongoose. Cheetahs would be more closely related to your cats, like your leopards and your lions, than they would be this hyena. Is this Miss Ribbon sending them back inside? No, I think she's just repositioning. Hi, Ribbon. And you know, these sightings that we are having at the den is good. Ribbon's very relaxed. The cubs are getting used to vehicles, used to voices, used to sounds, used to smells, and this is a good thing. So as they grow up, they will be habituated around vehicles. They will not fear them. They will not run every time they see a vehicle or get stressed. It won't be a case of fight or flight. They'll be very relaxed. We're not a threat. Mum's relaxed, and therefore do as Mum does, and they will be relaxed. I think she's grooming them, or trying to. I think we have been coming too late in the past, which is why we were not seeing them so often. But I think now we're getting our timing just perfect. Christy, you're saying you love their full little bellies. Tummies full of milk. I love them too. Just like a puppy, a newborn puppy with that soft tummy. I love them too. And they've still not quite got the art of walking very well. They're still really clumsy. Their muscles are there, they're developing, but they're still not capable of walking very far. If Ribbon was to move Danes right now, she would most likely pick them up in her mouth to move them. They've not really got the coordination or the capability to walk great distances. Okay, we're going to stay here just a little bit longer, but at some point the cubs will disappear. But for now, we're going to send you back across to James, who's at Buffelshoek Dam.
I am at the Waterhole now. Oh, there are the grebes. Oh, sorry. Rolling forward. Look, the little one went under. Diving little grebe. Well done, diving little grebe. Do it again. Show us. Show us your skills in the water. They're not swimming that fast, everyone. It just looks like they are because there's a slight breeze blowing and the sun blowing, at least shining from that direction. There we go. There's much diving going on there. Oh, yes. The hippopotamus is equally impressed with the diving grebes. Dive again, little grebe, we want to see. How it sees enough in this murky water to catch its bebes, things to eat, is quite beyond me. The bubbles that Mum's left when she's gone down. Oh, that was a good haul, this one. You're all agreeing, of course, that they're unspeakably cute, which they are. Yeah, Julian, they are, you know, almost as soon as they hatch from their eggies, they will walk out of the nest into the water and start swimming, or floating, certainly. They certainly don't dive as soon as they're born. And you'll see they're doing very little diving right now, although there obviously is some. little race to see who gets the food. Now they try and predict where Mum's going to come up. Much more adventurous one going off quite far. Looks like she almost caught a dragonfly there. This is the kind of place you'd sit and watch for a while and then pass out in the sun for an hour. Now, many of you wondering if one chick's getting less food than the other. It looks like it at the moment, but given their age, these chaps are now well over a week old. About 2 weeks old now, I think. You know, if one was eating too little, it would almost certainly be dead by now. One is bigger than the other because they're born at different times. So the bigger one is now... Oh, the little one's diving. Much diving from the little one. The little one, in its precocial attempt to dive, missed out on a bit of meal there. And now the bigger one's gone for a dive. That's so cool. All right. Eric has got an eagly. Let's go and find out what kind of an eagly Eric has got for you. Go ahead.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala. As you can see, we do have an eagle, and we've been trying to figure out which one it is. So we've been looking quite closely at it, and there are only a few options that we have left here, especially at this time of year. The Wahlberg's eagle has now started to move north. The majority of all of these big brown eagles have started to move north, and there's really only one resident eagle that you can confuse with, and that's why I'm saying that this is a tawny eagle. It's being quite majestic at the top of the tree there. It's preening and cleaning its feathers. It's just looking around for the afternoon. We've had a look around to see if we can see any remnants of a carcass. These tawny eagles are scavengers, and you do occasionally find them very close by to a carcass that might have been killed by a larger predator, but we don't see any sign of them there. There is actually, and what caught my attention a bit earlier on is just below it is there is another raptor in the tree, but it's a bit obscured, so we can't really see what it is. And there's a very good chance that it is another tawny eagle. But a lot of the time, I mean, this morning we saw a hooded vulture, if you were with me this morning. And they're also a bird that scavengers, and sometimes if there's more, or if there's a scavenger bird that's in one tree, you might find another species will come and investigate to see if there's a quick and easy meal. But I mean, you can just see it, you can literally just make out the shape of it. Can't see any features around the face or the head, so we haven't really been able to identify it yet. Cool, so I think we'll try and see if we can see that other eagle or vulture, whatever it might be. We'll send you across to Lauren again.
Lauren is just having the best time. I thought the cubs were maybe going to go inside, but nope. They're still terrorizing Mom, and she's loving it. Proud mama that Ribbon is. Now, Beaky, if any of them do get a little bit excited and we get a genital shot, we must take a look. A nice close-up. It may not be so easy to establish at this point, but we'll try. And only a quarter, 25% of Ribbon's first 2 litters have survived. Leah, you're asking what sound does a hyena make? Cubs this size make a very adorable noise. It's called squittering. I love that word and I love the sound. Wait till you hear them. It's called a squittering at this age. But as they get older and they become adults... Oh, we've got a genital shot, BK. We've got a genital shot.
Good afternoon, mobiles. Just to tell you that the male Ngala and the 2 females are still lying up in Cruise Camp Clearing, heading up the road from the dam.
It's a little bit pinched at the end there, but it's definitely still too young. I'm going to hedge my bets that one's a boy and one's a girl. But let's just wait and see. I think it's good to keep checking, keep referring back to screenshots. Then you'll have a catalogue of all the information. Hello, little one. Are you going to come and say hello? So yes, once an adult gets much older, they have 14 different vocalizations. Look at them. They haven't ventured past this line of the den yet. This is sort of the boundary line. They haven't really came much further. Hi. Auntie Lauren loves you very much. So hyenas can giggle, hyenas can cackle, hyenas can whoop. The most famous sort of noise that a hyena makes is a whooping sound. Sounds a little bit like that. But at this age, the age the cubs are at, all they can do is squitter.
Hey, copy.
I'm just going to turn this game to a radio dim. You see how relaxed Ribbon is? She's very, very relaxed. She's always got sort of one eye open, one ear open. And now she's letting them roam. She's letting them move around the den. She's letting them explore. Oh, look at this little one, BK. Oh, this is the furthest I've seen them go. Oh, my head. Oh, no, it's too scary. Too scary. We're not doing it. I hope she stays at this den, but if the parasite load does become too much, she may leave. There's a chance she may leave the den. This is so magical. I have about 1,000 photos of them. Oh, everyone loves them. Aren't they the best? And they were so worth the wait. We waited and we waited, James and I, and we waited and we waited. And we took it in turns and we sat by Ribbon as she, well, that's what Ribbon does. Sleeps. And it was worth it. Look at that little paw. Hello, you two. So yes, I was saying earlier, Ribbon's not had too much success with raising cubs. Only 25% of her first 2 litters made it. And of course, then you have Djuma. I really, really hope she raises these ones to success. And Anna, I completely agree with you. I also cannot believe how much they've grown. Do you remember when Davy and I first saw them on the 27th of March? And they looked like little aliens. BK, I'll need to show you the picture. You won't believe it. They had their eyes closed, their ears pinned back. Oh, this one's venturing down again. They're really interested in going down here, but then they keep changing their mind. It's just a little bit too scary. I wonder what they think is down there. stay here and enjoy this as long as I can until they disappear. And it appears that James has got a Franklin calling.
There is a Swainson's spurfowl. And it seems to be standing on a stage singing. Let's listen to it. It's a complicated time signature. I can't quite get it right. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 1. That's beyond me. It's obviously a bit of sort of Bartok or some other modern composer who changes time signatures every 3 or 4 bars. Little Lion, you say this is his version of the Gummy Bear song. Gummy bears dancing here and there and everywhere. High adventure that's beyond compare. They are the Gummy Bears. No, I could be right. I don't think it's a great version. I think it's a fairly poor version. The question is much more why he is standing on that stage and yelling his head off. Madash says that I'm out of sync. It's not easy trying to sing along with a Franklin, Madash. It's not like the thing has got a copy of the music in front of it that it's shared with me that I can follow along with, is it? I mean, it doesn't even speak English. It's cleaning itself while it's singing. If I ever did that at choir practice, I got into trouble. I started sniffing my armpit while I was trying to sing Mozart's Requiem. I'd have got into a lot of trouble. Say that again, Lindy. You said it looks like a
Sounds like.
chicken dog's toy. Oh. Yes, it does sound a little bit like a plastic chicken that a dog bites into. All right, let's move on from here. I think this Swainson's spurfowl might be telling us something, so we'll just look over the edge of this riverbed while you go back to Lauren and the hyena cubs.
Hyena cubs. I have to say, I do love that South Africans, or not all, most, for some reason put an additional H in that word. Not all. You should ask James about this. He'll love to talk about it. They say hyena instead of hyena. And I'm no one to talk. I also get words wrong with my terrible accent, but I think it's adorable when you hear them say hyena. I don't know where the additional H comes from. Oh, soon you will not be chewing on any plant matter, you two. You'll be gnawing on bones. But right now, the plants are a winner. That's probably why Ribbon chose us then. She thought, oh, there's so much to occupy them. Crystal clear. Who knows where the father is, and who knows who the father is? Did you just trip over Mom's head? That was not very smart. Hyenas are promiscuous, and they're very secretive when they mate. And actually, before I forget, I'm going to bring up some photos. James Richard, actually, you tagged me in a post on Facebook. I couldn't believe it. Someone managed to catch live hyena birth, which is very, very rare. I'll show you them once the cubbies disappear. And hyenas are very secretive when they mate. Because of the genital situation, it's not easy for them. And therefore, they are sort of mating. They form a copulatory lock. And they're not actually able to pull out. They're not able to extract from one another immediately. It takes time due to swelling. And therefore, it leaves them really vulnerable. So if they're mating and a predator comes along, they can't actually extract themselves from one another. So that's why they're so secretive about it, and it's not very often seen. But they are promiscuous. Hyena females will mate with many, many different males, and we don't get to see it. There's no paternal care, so we have no idea who the father of these cubbies is. We would only be able to tell by doing sort of DNA testing, which is not really done on hyenas. Standing by, Andrew.
Line junction with Rebecca, and yeah, they're very much interested if maybe we can get this work out here if you're nearby.
Copy, copy. Can you repeat what that is?
Come up Finland cut line, just before Gary and where the Rebecca Road or Zoe's Road joining.
Yeah, Zoe's, but what is it, Andrew?
Male giraffe.
Copy, copy. I'll come in a bit. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. And I think Andrew wants to take some shots of us with a giraffe. But of course, we're sitting here with these little cubbies. It would be really interesting for me to do paternity tests. I would love to know who the fathers are. I really would. Of Swazi and Tabele. These two. I'd love to know. But sadly, it's a lot of work. And you also have to go around collecting hyena scat. It's probably not the most pleasant job anyone can do. Oh, the cubbies are running back inside. If Ribbon moves, then the sighting will be over. As soon as she leaves the entrance to the den, that's time for the cubs to go back inside.
Check line from Spam Road, and then I will be ready on position.
I think she's getting ready to move. Oh, downward dog, a little bit of yoga. Another hyena's coming. Look, look, look. What just happened there was a greeting ceremony. It was a very intimate ceremony. Ribbon had her tail bent right up. I don't know if you noticed that. That's a sign of dominance. It's still up. Look at Ribbon's tail. Dominance. I'm the matriarch. Her tail is up. But she clearly trusts this hyena. Is it hard? I'm just gonna have a check. It's been so long since I've properly seen her. Can you hear them? And Djuma, Hyena, you're right. Intima, you're right. Goodness, she's got darker and bigger. And what happened there was very, very intimate. And you can see that by Ribbon lifting up her back leg like this, it shows you that there's trust. It was a greeting ceremony. Hyenas do this. They put their head to bum, bum to head sort of thing. They position themselves opposite each other. They lift their legs and they expose their genitals. And they're doing this intentionally. And what it's saying is that you could technically chomp my genitals off. Got a lot of anal pasting going on. Wonderful. Intima is anal pasting. Marking the territory of the den. Intima, everyone, is Ribbon's daughter. This is mother and daughter. A lot of trust. A lot of excitement. A lot of happiness to see one another. That was a very intimate grooming ceremony, and I can see the cubby's head. Everyone, I can see the cub. And what that means is that Ribbon trusts Intima around her little ones. Ribbon, you've got the whole family here for Friday night dinner. Got the whole fam bam. Now, many of you found that fascinating, isn't it? You can learn a lot from the way that hyenas interact with one another. And although I was a bit slow to pick up on that was Intima, it's been a long time since I've seen Intima. What I can tell you, there was a lot of trust there. There was a lot of excitement to see one another in the vocalizations. And you can tell that Ribbon is not at all cautious with Intima around the cubs. This is already starting to become a communal den. With Intima anal pasting as her marking the territory. So what the clan does is the clan's marking this entire den site now. So it's becoming a communal den. I would say this is no longer a natal den. Hello, Intima. You've got so much bigger. Oh, she's having a good look and sniff of the cubs. Isn't that sweet? That's your little siblings. Oh, there's some more anal pasting happening. What they do is they pop the inner part of their anus out. And you can see it come out, and they paste a substance on all the vegetation. It's a bit of a smelly substance, as you can imagine. It comes from their bottom, and they paste it onto the vegetation. That's how they mark their territories. Oh, wow, what a sighting. Okay, I'm going to decide what I'm doing here, get in touch with Andrew, and as I do that, we're going to send you... Oh! Okay, I'm not going to send you anywhere. Eric just lost signal, so you're staying with me. But I am going to send you, not to Eric, but to Mr. Henry instead, to see what he's up to.
Poor old Eric having a little tough time there at Ngala Private Game Reserve. I'm just going to look on that termite mound there to see if maybe the leopard male that is known as Tingana could be there. I see him not. It's a very, kind of quiet afternoon. What's that? Nothing. Hello, Rivki, age 17 in New York. Yes, animals can communicate with each other for sure. The best example of it is animals that alarm call. So if a rattling cisticola goes, A leopard, if it happens to be in the area, will flick its tail up to show that it's not hunting. So there's communication going on there, and by flicking its tail up, it's telling the bird that it's actually not a threat, and so the bird might stop alarm calling. And so that's not just across two mammal species, that's across a massive gap in relations that has evolved together. So that's really interesting. Now, that's not the only example of it, but it's a good example of it. And the most obvious example, if you think carefully, is the example of human beings communicating with their pets. We do it all the time. Our pets communicate with us, we communicate with our pets. Obviously, the communication is rudimentary. It's not like you can read Chaucer to your Staffordshire Bull Terrier. He won't understand what on earth's going on. But you know what I mean. You can tell him to sit, you can tell him to come here, you can tell him to go away, you can tell him to go and lie down. He understands you. He can wag his tail, he can go and tell you, might even pull your arm if he wants to show you something, bark a lot if they want to indicate some kind of distress. So, you know, there are lots of ways that animals communicate interspecifically. I'm trying to think of some other good examples here. They do it with body language. You know, let's say a buffalo and an elephant are competing over a water source. There will definitely be some very obvious body language from both of them that both of them understand. I've seen rhino standing off with elephant, where I'm not sure the rhino understood what was going on so much, but as soon as the rhino lifted his head in a threatening posture, the elephant would back off. So the elephant understood exactly what was going on. So, big question, yes, I think it happens a lot. If those are the examples we are seeing, given how limited I think our understanding is of animal communication, I think you'll probably find that it's a lot more extensive than we think it is. That's a really cool question, thank you. Right, we will now try to go back to Eric, who's not got an eagly this time, but a whole group of lions.
We've just refined Pride of Life this morning again. My son and I both had quite a bit of a scare because we got to their last position and they had completely disappeared from where we last saw them. But I think they literally just went to go and find a spot where there was some better shade for the day, and this is probably where they've been since maybe at least 2 or 3 hours ago. But what's really nice to see is that the cubs are starting to get a little bit more restless. So we might start to see them rolling around a little bit more. This one that's just picked up its head has been irritating its sister. Sister's not in the too. See, they're just starting to be a little bit more playful. So we've timed it really, really well. We'll get hopefully some very good views. A few little slaps to the face. And just look at that line, the one that's got its head up, and look where it's chewing and biting its sister. Exactly around the throat, around the nose, maybe even behind the back of the leg or the back of the neck. That's exactly where the mothers would bite if they were to kill something. So that's probably a behavior that they might have already seen the mothers do when they've been out hunting. And at this age, it's all about the practice. So that's literally just practicing getting the right technique and getting into the right position. Luckily, its teeth isn't sharp enough to pierce through its sister's skin. Sydney, you're asking if the weather affects a lion's schedule, and absolutely it does. They predominantly are a nocturnal species, so moving around at nighttime. But there's a few reasons why they do that. Number one, it's a lot easier to go and so they can get very close to their prey before they start hunting. And then it's a lot cooler at night time, so they don't have to waste so much energy cooling themselves down. They can save and conserve that energy for when they need to hunt. So usually if it's a really, really cold morning and quite a breezy one, they'll tend to move around because they know that the chances of them being able to catch something has increased a lot in normal conditions. So on a cloudy, overcast day with lots of wind, they tend to move around a lot more than they would on a very sunny day. And on the opposite end of the scale, in the last couple of days, if you've been watching Sydney, we've had some really, really beautiful views of the moon. And that moon is incredibly bright. So these animals can see quite clearly, even if they are a diurnal species. So when we're driving home, we almost don't need to switch on our lights. We can see the road clearly enough. And so these lions find it very hard to move around when it's full moon, which might mean that they've got no choice but to wait in the early hours of the morning, later hours of the afternoon to move around to try and find something. And that's what we've noticed in the last 4 days. I mean, it's been coming up to full moon. They haven't been moving around too much from their last position at night time, but then in the early mornings we find their tracks and they're moving around, and they've been hunting right up until maybe 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean, today was a perfect example. 4 lionesses attempted to kill a fully grown buffalo bull, and that was at 8 o'clock, which shouldn't usually happen. It was a warm enough day for them to have found a nice shady spot by then, but they obviously were unsuccessful. That little cub was just watching birds flying over. It's really cute. And the lighting is just getting so nice. Just look at the size of that one's paws. It's almost the size of its head. Yeah, that moon was absolutely exquisite. It was such to start off with, at least that deep orange color was amazing. It's only going to start rising later from here, between 5 minutes to an hour each night, if I'm not mistaken. And that means that the conditions are going to be more favorable for these lions. So it's going to be darker. It's going to be a lot easier for them to move around and go unnoticed, so they get the chance to move very close to the animals before they get spotted. Seems like the playfulness is getting more and more. So as you can see, there's a lot of restlessness happening, especially with the 2 younger cubs. We're not going to be going anywhere, but for now we'll send you back to Lauren, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Our hyenas went flat, the cubs disappeared, so we decided to come and check out Andrew's giraffe. And it's a very big boy, very big. Bald ossicones, extremely large in size, and very dark patches. A very unhappy starling in the background there. I don't know why he's so upset. But yes, this giraffe is just browsing, very calmly. The darker the patches, I'm not a big fan of calling them spots, the more dominant the male is said to be. It wasn't realized until very recently, this is a very recent scientific paper, that giraffes had any form of social structure or hierarchy, but it appears they actually do. Now I wonder, BK, if we can just go forward a little bit, if we'll get a better view of this boy. He's a little bit blocked by the vegetation. There we go, I think we're going to see him just fine. Rosemary, you're very happy because you said giraffes are your favourites. I'm so happy, Rosemary. Giraffes are also my father's favourite. He loves them. He's crazy about giraffes. But they really are wonderful animals. They have a lot more to them than you would originally realise. And they survive out here. They really do. They're quite socially aloof, so they don't form strict permanent bonds, but they do like to be in one another's company. And you will often find that giraffes form temporary bonds or tender bonds when the males sort of follow the females and hoping to get lucky with a lady in estrus. But this male is actually letting us get very close. Can you see that love heart? The last patch on his neck looks like a love heart. Janet, you're asking what are the ossicones made of? Entirely bone, completely bone, the same as an impala's horns, minus the keratin. No keratin, they're completely bone, covered in hair, fine layers of hair, and you can actually see the very bald part at the top. Can you see that? This is definitely an older male. And when a calf is first born, the ossicones are made completely of cartilage, which is a soft, funny material we have on the end of our nose and our ears and in our joints. But many organisms in the natural world have it in their bodies. Sharks are made entirely from cartilage. And what happens is the ossicones are made of cartilage in order to not damage the mother during the birthing process. And they lay flat on the calf's head, so they don't stick up vertical, they're actually lying horizontal, and they're soft. Cartilage is very soft and very flexible, and only when the giraffe gets older will the ossicones actually begin to ossify, which means turn into bone. It's a slow process, and they'll eventually go erect and stick upright, as they are doing right now. So originally they're made from cartilage and then eventually bone. Ossification is a word for turning into bone. That's what it means. He's thoroughly enjoying the snack. George, you're asking, has there ever been a dwarf giraffe? Was that correct? VK's laughing. George, I have never been asked that question. I don't know. I don't think so. I think there's probably been small giraffes, slightly smaller ones, but I'm not sure what a dwarf giraffe would actually classify. How would you classify that? A mini giraffe, a mini-me. I don't actually know, George, but I don't think so. I think all giraffes are very, very tall. The calves are also born at quite a size. Okay, we may stay with this boy just a little bit longer because it's so beautiful as the sun is starting to set. And as we do that, we are going to send you back across to Eric at andBeyond Ngala with his playful lions.
There was a few lionesses that saw the youngsters playing around and they just thought that they had to come and get involved, and so now they literally walked over and flopped straight onto the two that we were just watching, and now it looks like they've assumed the most comfortable position that they could possibly find. But the good news is the cubs are still really active. You can see there's a couple more that are wrestling around with one another. There, that's an adult. She's just picked up her head now. There we go. Oh, look at the yawn. Jeepers. Incredible. You couldn't have framed that more perfectly either. That was really cool. The one adult now is moving. I think maybe heading towards one of the other females. Let's just see what she gets up to. I wonder if she's maybe not just separated herself so she gets more opportunity to listen to the noises that are happening around her rather than the rustling and the playfulness of the cubs. So she might even from this point start to be thinking of a direction to be moving. Our Penelope, life is very tough for these lions. Looks like they are completely stressed and having the worst time.
It's a tough job. Someone's got to do it.
There's a yawn coming. Put one of the head up. Big yawn. Okay, so we're sticking around here. James, I think, has got a really cool little bird, one of my favorites. So we'll go and see which one it is, and then we'll see you shortly.
These are lovely birds, and we very seldom get them on screen because they fly away. They are the double-banded sand grouse, and that is the female. The male is on the right. They've had an argument. One is not talking to the other now. You can see. I think he's coming to apologize. She says, "Did you leave this here?" And he says, "Well, I mean, I could have." "Well, why didn't you pick it up?" I probably should, but not now, dear. I'm looking over here towards the sun as it's setting. Pick it up now. Oh, let me just go for a little walk. You always do that. You never pick up after yourself. Now I must do it. See, I'm picking up after you. Dear, I'll do it later. No, it's too late now. Notice how much shorter their legs are than those of the francolin. If you were not a birder and you were trying to learn birds, you would perhaps confuse one of these for a francolin with extremely short legs. But you will see that they are not in fact francolins, and they have very short legs because they don't walk around that much. They do much more flying than walking. And although I suppose they'd be considered a game bird, they fly from place to place. Quite widely, they're nomadic birds. Not like francolins, which tend to be much more sedentary. Was that not exciting, everybody? That's me being very happy. Yeah, okay, that's a very easy question to answer. You want to know why all my animal couples are arguing. It's because I've just got married. They've just flown off. I'm just joking, my dear, I promise. She now says that she doesn't want to see me on screen anymore. Could we please go back to Eric? Okay, off you go. There's some ancient elephant tracks.
Not too much has changed in the last few minutes. It seems like things have settled down a little bit, but every now and again we do get one or two wrestling matches taking place, so that's why we're sticking around. We've been trying to look at the adults' behavior and put one on the right side, that's slightly away. See at the back right-hand side of the screen here. She's got her head down and looking very relaxed, so she doesn't look like she's showing any sign of movement. But hopefully the cubs continue playing. You can just see the two nuzzling up to one another there now. It really is a special afternoon. I mean, there's not a breath of wind. We can hear the birds calling around us. The sun is setting behind us. We were just saying how peaceful it is being in a situation like this. Ooh, that one on the right, look at the back there. looks like a potential groom, and that's always good news for us. If you see the adults grooming and cleaning themselves, it's a sure sign that they're looking to try and get active. It might literally be getting up and moving from one shade to another, and they're the typical commentator's curse. She's just laying flat on her back again. And you see every now and again the flick of an ear or the flick of a tail, and that's from Nana. Unfortunately not. There are no Ross males here. We actually haven't seen them since Rowan showed you them 4 days ago now, 3 days ago. So we're not entirely sure where they are. We also haven't heard them, so we're not sure where they are. They might have gone slightly further west to go and try and find one of the other prides that they associate with. But I mean, there's the potential of the females calling. When they're marking their territory, they will sometimes call out, and instead of having 2, you'll have 4 lines. And I saw a very cool video by Sean, one of our other rangers, who filmed one of the cubs trying and attempting to roar not so long ago. So if they start calling, you might find that the cubs will all probably try and join in with their mothers. Hadija, you're asking about the bird in the background. There's a couple I can hear. There's one called a blue waxball. It's going tss, 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 tss. So that's the sound. There's also a ringneck dove, and that's going. And then there is another one that's making a clicking noise. It's a call that I've gone blank with. I'm sure it will come to me now. One of the lionesses is just getting up. She might give us a stretch, even a yawn. And just look where her back legs and her back meet. That's her stomach, and there's quite a deep indentation there. And so she's looking unhealthy skinny, but she's ready to eat, I'd say. She's coming over for some loving with the cubs. Look, she'll just flop over. Doesn't matter where she lands. So like I say, we're not going anywhere. We'll stick around until these lions show us a little bit more life. It seems like every now and again they're unsettled, and then they move around, and then they find a comfy spot and rest. So if they happen to get more active, we'll certainly be able to show that to you. But for now, we'll send you back to Lauren, who's still with the giraffe.
And with my big bull. Now, from the sort of position where we are, we're looking up at him, and it's absolutely incredible. He is massive. BK, let's do a close look into his shoulder blade, if you like. A big, bulbous, can only be described as his shoulder blade. Oh, there's a little red bulldog specker on it. Look at the muscles. That's incredible. It's a very, very powerful animal. Of course, they have a reputation for being very gentle, which they are, and walking slowly. This is a really, really powerful animal. And each giraffe has a unique patch pattern. They're not all the same. So you can identify giraffes by looking at their patch pattern. And apparently, offspring inherit part of the patch pattern from their mother. Jensen, you are 8 years old from Illinois. Hi there, Jensen. And you're asking, do male giraffes ever hang around together? And actually, yes, they do. If they're not competing over a female, maybe there's a dominant one and then some submissive ones, they'll form little bachelor herds. And what that means is all males, like this one here. They will hang around with one another and stay together in little calm herds with no fightings. But male giraffes can also fight with one another, and it can be very aggressive, and they can fight to the death. It's not very nice the way they fight. They use the power of their necks and their ossicones, and it's called clubbing. They swing their necks down so fast into one another's sides, into the rib cage, if you like, and they club each other with their ossicones, and it can lead to death, I'm afraid. So they can fight, but they can also hang out together, and we do call this bachelor herds. This boy is just magnificent. He's less than 10 meters away from us, less than 30 feet away from us. We have this huge bull. He's very dark. I think he's much older. If you look at his neck, he's got some patches of hair missing. He's old, he's scarred, and he's also very dark. Alicia, you're 9 years old, and you're asking, do they eat the branches or just the leaves? It's just the leaves. They're looking for the most delicious and nutritious foliage that there is. They'll eat many leaves from many different trees, including flowers as well. They love the flowers of the knobthorn. But here, this bull is just eating the leaves. He's not eating the branches. The branches are not very delicious, I'm afraid. So he's slowly plucking, using his thick rubbery lips and his thick rubbery tongue. He's plucking the leaves off. Giraffes have very long tongues. It's quite bizarre, and they're able to put their tongues right into the vegetation and pull off whatever they wish to eat. Their diet does change from summer to winter, I must say, and of course in winter the entire vegetation changes, and therefore they will be restricted. There will be no delicious knobthorn flowers, there will be no leaves on the deciduous trees. But he's really, really loving this combretum here. Pamela, that's a very good question. They don't sleep much at all. They're actually said to be one of the sleepless mammals, especially in comparison to Eric's lions. They sleep in short bouts, similar to elephants. And they're said to only sleep for about anywhere between 4.5 to 6 hours per day, which is not very much for a big animal. And they can rest standing up, but they also can bend their knees, bend their legs, lay down, and they curl their neck on top of their sides. It's very cute. You should Google it. And by the way, George, I did just Google dwarf giraffe. If any of you are bored, try it. Google has some wonderful images of photoshopped dwarf giraffes. Please do it. It will make you laugh. But yes, you can look at giraffes sleeping. They sort of curl their neck around, and this is to avoid blood rushing to their head. If they obviously lie down completely on their side, it will be very, very difficult for them to get back up again. They may even have a head rush. They may just not get back up at all. So they've got to be careful how they sleep, but they can sort of sleep and rest standing up. But overall, they really don't need to sleep that much at all. They're said to use a high alert power nap strategy. I wish I could do that. I can't. I go into deep sleeps, no alert strategy naps. Okay, the sun is starting to set. I may enjoy this giraffe for a little bit longer, and then we are going to look for Mr. Tungana, who will also be sleeping and I imagine is not high alert. You guys are going to go back across to James and see what his plan is.
My plan is to find absolutely anything that I can. At this stage, a couple of telegraph poles and 2 impala running away as fast as they possibly can, desperately trying to escape the glare of the lens. Let's roll towards him. See if we can get an impala sighting. Hello, impala. How are you? Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you get eaten tonight. I hope that when I see you next, you're hanging out of a tree, not by your own volition. Kirsten says, I don't really hope that. Well, okay, I don't, because that'll offend people. I'm sorry. I don't really hope he's killed and hanged in a tree. We're on the western boundary now, driving down towards the south to see if anything is here. What was that, Dylan? I didn't copy your question. Ah, yes, I must find what I can. Thank you, Dylan. Russet bush willow, red bush willow, Filtiform africanum. Stuck in bed, you'd like to see a go-away bird. Gosh, you do not have high expectations. I think you should give more requests. Go-away bird, coming up. Stuck in bed. Look, wait, David, I found another impala. Hang on a second. Let me go back a bit. We're now going to do some visual trespassing. We're going to look onto Arethusa at this magnificent impala, which has now gone. No, two of them. Yeah, I caught you. What are you guys doing, huh? Yeah, exactly. I caught you. They look like they're up to no good. Raiding the pantry. Stealing liquor during lockdown. But this one's rebellious. It doesn't care that it's been caught. Ian, you want me to look for Ian the impala? Ian is just behind this clump. That's not Ian, that's Ian's friend. Melvin. Ian's friend, Melvin. Hello? Melvin? What are you stealing? Some of us haven't had a drink for about 6 weeks. And here you are lifting liquor out of the stores. He looks scandalized. I mean, are we having a stare-off? Hannah, you say not Richard. That's me, everybody. Apparently my new name is not Richard. Please can we find a big black mamba? Well, interestingly, in this kind of weather, you might find a big black mamba lying out in the last of the sun. It's already quite chilly, and so they'll be thinking about going to termite mounds and trying to stay relatively inactive. But maybe a big black mamba is in the offing. Good. Well, that was fantastic, wasn't it? Let's carry on. Melvin and Ian, the impalas, raiding the liquor store on Arethusa. We're going to go all the way down the western boundary. All right, let's go across to Eric with his lions. I can't think that it's going to be very long before they get up and start moving.
We decided to get into a slightly different position, and the reason being is that a few of the females down on the right-hand side of the frame that you just saw got up and moved, and so we thought there's a very good chance that at least one or two of the females might follow them, And if that's the case, then they could be joined by the cub. So even though they've moved a total of 6 meters, we might still be able to see the whole pride up and moving around. There's one, I think it might have moved off now, but in the thickets and the trees to the right of the lionesses at the back and the cubs at the back. And there was one that was quite inquisitive and was playing with the tree. I thought it might try and climb, but I think it could have gone back towards, oh, there we go. You can just see it looking up. So it's still quite inquisitive. I love it when these lions look up like that. Would be amazing. No, it's still looking. I wonder if it will try and climb. No, it won't. Lions do occasionally attempt to climb, but they're not nearly as good as leopards. Now, Munich, you're asking if these white lions mature, if they'll have equal mating opportunities. And Munich, I think it depends on the individual. I mean, they're not going to have a disadvantage or even an advantage because they're white. It will all come down to the I guess, especially with this young male, it will come down to the dominance within the coalition that he's got. So he's got 2 other brothers, and when he gets chased away from the pride, they'll stay together. It makes it a lot easier for them to stay safe. But then when they get slightly more mature, it makes it a lot easier for them to take over new territory and take over pride so they can mate. And in the 3 of them, they'll have a pretty quite clear hierarchy, and it will be established from even younger than they are now. So they'll probably have some sort of pecking order already. And it happens when the cubs are doing what they're doing at the moment. When they're fighting around like this, they get to determine who's a little bit stronger, who's maybe the slightly bigger one. If you're slightly bigger at this age, you might be able to push your brother off of a carcass, which means you might be able to get more food, and that will allow you to eat a little bit more. And so you might get bigger a lot quicker than your 2 brothers. You want to go over. Seems like there's a little bit more activity around that tree. One's, I think, more stretching its claws and the tendons in the claws there rather than trying to climb. But then the female, I think, as soon as she comes into estrus, she's fair game, and any lion will want to mate with her. That's the wrong tree to try and climb. Oh, jumped! No ways! You see what I mean? They're horrible climbers. It's looking sheepish.
Try again.
Yeah, I might try again on a different branch. Let's see it sniffing around. They've just got too much weight. I mean, this male lion probably weighs a similar size to a fully grown adult female, if I had to guess. A leopard. And, I mean, a leopard would easily be able to use the tree and will easily be able to climb up it with quite a lot of skill. But these lions just don't spend enough time in the trees to get very good. And then they just don't have the correct power to weight ratio like a leopard does. So it is always quite hysterical to see them try and climb. And I wonder if the little cousin is going to try her attempt. She's chosen a slightly bigger and thicker branch. And just look at the lighting hitting her. It's just a beautiful winter orange. It's nice to see a few more of the lions coming over towards where we've positioned. Look at how strong and sharp those little tannins of hers are. I'm going to stick here. Like I said, there's more and more opportunity for them to get more and more active. So hopefully within the next hour or so, we get to see them being even more active than we've had already this afternoon. So whilst we wait, we'll send you across to Lauren, who's, I think, might still be with the same giraffe.
I am still with my giraffe because it's incredible how close he is to us. He's so, so close. I know you can't see him very well because he's really munching on these delicious leaves, but he's just so close. He's really not bothered that we're here watching him eat his dinner. Jenna, you're 14 years old and you're asking what is the purpose of the long necks? What a complicated question. We don't actually know. There's many reasons thought to be. They actually have the same number of vertebrae, 7, that we have. It's just bigger gaps in between those vertebrae, which elongates their neck. And if you take a look, he is able to reach up the top of the trees to get delicious leaves. But he also bends down to eat delicious grass and delicious flowers on the ground. So that can't be the only reason that giraffes have a long neck. There was also a theory that they thought it was for sexual selection. So the males developed these big long necks to impress the ladies. But there's a slight problem with that theory. And the theory is that the ladies also have long necks. So somewhere along the lines of evolution, giraffes have grown long necks, and it must provide some sort of advantage for them in comparison to other animals. But it's not really fully understood, Jenna. Some people think it is for food, height advantage, get vegetation that no one else can get, or necks for sex. Is it necks for sex? Who knows? Could possibly be that way. The males evolved them, and then the females followed suit. But it's really not understood. Either way, it does give them a height advantage, and along with their good eyesight, they can see for miles. But fantastic question. It's really not understood why they have long necks. They're very often found bending down to eat delicious food on the ground anyway. They're not restricted to just eating foliage from trees up high. Sugar Bits, hi there. You are asking, do we get white giraffes? I don't know if you mean white or if you mean leucistic or albinos, but you do get leucistic giraffes. Albinos are rare. Albinos when you have absolutely no pigment in the skin, the eyes, the hair, the feathers, and absence of melanin. Leucistic is when you have a lack of, but you still do have it. So in the case of giraffes, you can get leucistic giraffes. You can get leucistic and melanistic versions of most organisms. Even in the ocean, I've seen leucistic giraffes for sure. I think I have seen photos in a zoo somewhere in the States of an albino giraffe. But albinism is complicated because the pure lack of pigment leaves the animal very vulnerable. It's sensitive to light, not able to see properly in the sun, not able to protect itself properly in the sun. So there's a lot of albino animals that don't survive. But leucistic animals can survive. It may just be very challenging for them. Now I have to say, this is a very large boy. I think this is the closest I've ever been to giraffe genitals. Let's take a look, Beaky. Dylan, you are asking a fantastic question. You're asking, do giraffes have communication sounds? Well, yes, they do. A recent study, it's very recent actually, shows that they communicate at a sound range lower than the human hearing level. So we can't hear it at all. It's out of our hearing range, and they're constantly communicating to one another. And they actually call this humming. So this male probably isn't doing it right now. I think the study says they do it at nighttime, but at nighttime they do hum to one another, and this is most likely for safety. So they don't stay next to one another at night time, but they do keep in contact with one another. And because they can't see, because it's dark, they're diurnal animals primarily, then they keep in constant contact with one another through humming. And it's apparently very beautiful when you use acoustic technology to listen to it. They're probably just keeping in contact with one another, spatial tactics, safety. And that's exactly how they do that. Terrible views, I know, but he's just so close to us. I don't want to turn on the engine right now. Okay, we may move on from this giraffe soon, unless he does anything spectacular. But as we sit here, we are going to send you back across to Eric with his lions.
We have come over at just the right time. It seems like some of the cubs are really starting to get quite active and playful with one another. And it's interesting, each and every one of them have gone over to that exact same tree and has been scratching around. See that one of the older cubs is now doing the same. You know, I think what makes moments like this so special is if you've seen lions, and I'm sure you've watched their behavior quite often, is that we spend so much time watching them sleeping with that big male. Look at him. Is he going to go up? No. And they spend so much time sleeping, so to see them as active as they are now is just a real treat to this one. Oh, there you go. Look at that. No, he slipped. Go up again, try again. No, he's not going to. There's a couple of these lions that have walked from one point to another down in this area. Now they all seem to be shifting direction again. There's one on the left-hand side, Marcel, if you can get it. It's coming out with one of its, I think it's just made a kill of something. I'm joking, it was just a branch that it picked up. It looks like it's maybe dropped it. I can't see it now. Oh, no, it's still got it. It's still got it. Oh, this is awesome. It's just like, because there's so many lions, you just don't really know where to look. Each one of them is doing something very different. I think we'll focus on these two. They seem to be the most active. They're very, very playful. Bit of a pounce. So now they all seem to be moving to exactly where they were a little bit earlier on. There's one of the adults. She is so huge. MGN, I completely agree with you, and it's happening faster than I think we realize. It's amazing how golden this grass is getting. I mean, we're quite lucky here. They are around a little pan, so there's quite a lot of underlying water which is turning it green, or holding the green a little bit longer than usual. But throughout the whole reserve, everything is very, very brown. It's something to take note of, because I mean, down in the Sabi Sands, it's even greener than it is here. The Timbavati area tends to be browner for a lot longer. I think we'll quickly go and have a check-in with James to see what he's got, and then might see you soon.
We had a bird. We had a really nice, rare, exotic bird. A rare, exotic bird. Danger. It's now behind all the bush. We had it for some time. It's quite nice, really. There it is. It is a sadly billed stork. See, it's sadly on the top of its bill. Now, I haven't seen one of these for a while, and they normally occur in pairs. And that's a Mrs. sadly billed stork. Rohan, can birds talk to each other? Yeah, they can. In so much as they can, like I was saying earlier, alarm call for one another. They definitely pay attention to each other's alarm calls. I'm trying to think what else, other forms of communication there might be. I think that they understand when there's competition, certainly, and they will perhaps try and use some of their calls to make areas seem full or to ward away predators. So, I mean, if a fork-tailed drongo is doing a pearl-spotted owl call, it's definitely doing it for a reason. You know, I think to a certain extent that's probably to communicate with other drongos, possibly with pearl-spotted owls, and possibly with competition that might think there was a pearl-spotted owl there and then leave and not be there anymore. But I don't think they're able to stand on a branch and have a good old chin wag about what the weather's like. That would be beyond them, I feel. Chin wagging about the weather between species, probably unlikely. Right, and I believe the lions for the 25th time today are in fact getting up, and now they are playing with a stick.
Each one having to engage in this, having time. Up, look at it. To leave. Hello? No, maybe it's all stuck. I don't know why that one arm is up in the air like that. No. It's almost like I guess in a way, a train of jump and getting that stack might be something that they're intrigued by. But I'm just so surprised each one of the cubs has gone up and they've all had a turn to try and climb the tree first. And then a few of them have obviously taken out their frustrations on the green leaves. So all of the adults have gone to exactly where we first had them a little bit earlier on this afternoon, and now the cubs are just exploring more and more in this area. See, oh, here comes an attack. That's awesome. Yeah, it's not a good day to be in this tree, Monica. I agree with you. It looked like it was getting a little bit more serious. She's fighting back. I think the big one is just throwing his weight around a little bit more. Now he's going to try. So he had a very poor attempt on his first attempt. Let's see if he improves. He just come out on the other side of the bush there. Here comes one of the adults. Yeah, I agree with you, Don. It looks very similar. It reminds me when we had cats, and yeah, they would always get very aggressive with the feather duster, and I suppose it's pretty similar. I think their attention has moved off of the tree and now they're focusing again on each other. Gain one. His female again moved, so they was back and forth. Yeah. I just absolutely love the strength of a lioness, and they're so defined. You can really see that muscle that goes from the front all the way to the back. That is just pure muscle. I wonder if all of these lionesses are moving at the same time, so she might be, yeah. So she's not going to more listening and stretching in the claw. But with all of the adults up, it's pretty good signs for us. I mean, I think they might be deciding to move on. It's starting to cool down. It's getting dark. Remember, the moon is only going to arrive. Okay, we're going to try and get into a better signal spot. We're going to send you across to Lauren.
I have left my giraffe. He was spectacular, stunning animal. Now, I remember Jamie Patterson, an old guide here who actually trained me, telling us about a stink bull. And apparently once giraffes reach a certain age and they become very dominant, they emit a special odour. Now, my nose is really sensitive, but James was actually telling me it's a scent that not everyone can smell. It's an odour that some people say, oh, my goodness, can you smell that? And others say, I can't smell that. It really depends on the person. But when Jamie was telling me or teaching me about the stink bulls, I always thought she was saying stink bombs, an accent thing. So for long enough, I thought male giraffes over a certain size and certain age were stink bombs, but they're not. I will tell you now, they are not. They're stink bulls. They become very, very smelly. And my last little point on this topic is I can't smell it. I have a really hypersensitive nose to the point of if there's a foul smell in my room, I can't sleep. I can't sleep. I can sleep through fire alarms and phone alarms and people snoring. But smells and light, I cannot. But yet, I can't smell the giraffe. So I think that really builds on what James was saying, that not everyone can smell them. Fascinating. So I'm going to head to quarantine. I want to be on quarantine and see if Mr. Tungana possibly makes an appearance. He might not, but we are going to send you back across to James and let's ask him about that theory.
On giraffes? Stink bulls. No idea what a stink bull is. Absolutely no clue whatsoever. I better do some more reading. Here is a kudu with an Egyptian goose in the background trying to steal the limelight, but it's going to struggle. Unless the kudu walks out of the limelight, of course. They're such elegant things, aren't they? We've come down towards Chitwa Waterhole. See what we can find down here. We'll roll gently down the hill. Possibly not engage too much with that Egyptian goose. You know, you can probably find them on your roof if you look outside, if you live in South Africa. You'll certainly hear them flying over from time to time. Oh, there's a great diversity of life here. We've got a waterbuck who's making a poo, and two fish eagles. That waterbuck is very brave. It is scratching its bottom with its sharp horn. Now, I'd imagine the potential for self-inflicted injury is quite high. Hey, careful, buddy. You get that wrong, you'll be in trouble. And there are the fish eagles. They're having a lovely time. I say they're having a lovely time. I don't know, why did I say that? Are they having a lovely time? I don't know if they're having a lovely time. They're just kind of sitting around enjoying themselves. Looking, yeah, they're not fighting with each other. They're looking towards some guinea fowl, which seem to be alarming, but often it's just a territorial call and not an alarm. Much times have I been conned by the guinea fowl, telling a foul and contemptible untruth. See what I did there? Apparently a number of you laughing at my waterbuck jokes. I wasn't joking. He was in serious danger of impaling himself. And if he's got his horn stuck, can you imagine? He's got to run in circles for the rest of his life. Right, we'll drift down to the water. It's another play on words. We're not really drifting. We're rolling. What were the guinea fowl alarming at? We'll drive back out that way. Melissa, I do the most amazing fish eagle call. In fact, what we'll do is get up on the damn wall here. We'll point the camera at the fish eagles. Make the call. You think that it was the fish eagles or me making the call? Okay. I'm really good at this. But I'm amazing at doing fish eagle call. Right. Now I'm going to make the call, and you just need to decide whether it was me or the fish eagle. Let me prepare myself. How's that? You see, they looked towards me. They knew that was actually me. That wasn't the fish eagle. I told you I was really good at it. I think I made a mistake there. I think I just did the chicken instead. What I meant was I'm really good at doing the chicken. I'm not very good at the fish eagle. Lorena, I lost it a long, long time ago. I didn't lose it recently. This is a long-term loss of sanity and general decorum. There are some hippopotami. Chef lady, you say I made your dog bark. I do apologize. Although, you know, a bit of entertainment for... How was that, everyone? Was that better? I think that was a much better call. Told you I could do it. So you say my fish eagle call was as bad as my Welsh accent. I don't know why I can't do a Welsh accent. From the coal mines. That sounds like Mumbai. In the valleys, there we go. In the valleys, where a lot of curry comes from. I don't know why I'm so useless at a Welsh accent. Anyway, there it is. You know, I used to sit on the top of that tree you're looking at there before the rains. That's how low the water was. And I didn't swim out to it, in case you were wondering. I walked out to it, not on the water. Let's go to Eric now. We're on 26 times. His lions are now getting active. Very exciting.
These cubs have now changed their attention from the tree to a few living things, and in the very, very dense bush in front, and the tall grass, there's been a couple of birds, and I haven't seen them too well, but I think they're African crakes, and so the crakes will get flushed out by the lion cubs, and then they land, and then the cubs spend about 10 minutes moving through the area trying to find them again, and then the crakes will fly up again. So it's been very entertaining to watch. Just seems like these lionesses are moving with a bit of an extra maybe 10 meters or so, and now they've settled down again. But they're yawning more and more regularly. They're spending more time with the cubs. There goes one of the lionesses across screen there. And so they will get active, and I think maybe they're just trying to wait it out and wait for it to get a little bit darker. So I was saying, I mean, it was full moon last night, I think it was, which means that we're going to get in that period where it's going to be dark and the moon hasn't risen yet. And I wonder if the lions will know that. I mean, it's hard to say whether they take into account of the moon cycle. I doubt that they do, but I mean, they might just see it as an opportunity that it's dark, and now would be a good chance to get active and start hunting. And then the moon will rise by 7:30ish or so, and then they'll probably not be as successful as they would be if it was dark. We've got another lioness that will come into view now. Let's see if she interacts with the cubs. No, walks straight past them. Now, she's one of the older lionesses of the pride, so she's had lots of times where she's been annoyed by cubs. She's probably used to it. So the one in the foreground, the lioness that you can see, is also one of the adults, and if she's watching what her sister and auntie and mother are doing, she might follow them. But these cubs are not taking into account whatsoever. They're just having a good time. And they'll play around and be as active as they possibly can, and they might look at the mother's behavior and they might get up and follow them. If they're too distracted and too playful, then the mother will have to call them. It's a good question. I think Kathy, probably from about a year and a half or so, we might start referring them more to sub-adults than cubs. So I guess the older lions, or the older ones in the litter, might be considered more sub-adults now. But I mean, because those two are so much smaller than the other two, or the other 6 at least, I still refer to them as cubs, and they are about just over a year old. So I guess you would say you could also call them sub-adults, but for me they're much closer to cubs than sub-adults. That one lioness is yawning now, so she could get up quite soon. See, if she yawns again, I think she might get up. Yeah, they're all listening, and you can just see those black dots behind their ears. So they were listening. There was a whole bunch of birds that took off from surrounding area. I think they were francolins making a racket, and I think these cubs maybe just diverted their attention there to try and figure out what was causing those birds to flush up. Starting to become evening, so they could literally just be moving to a roosting spot. Apparently quite a few viewers are asking about the Birmingham young male who has got that injury and still nothing. I mean, we had tracks of what we think was his sister this morning, but no tracks or signs of him. And I mean, that injury looked quite bad. Well, what he might just be doing is just trying to rest and conserve energy. So he'll probably try and find a spot where he can remain nice and hidden, so he's not really going to be pestered by anything like other lions or hyenas. And he'll just clean that wound. He'll keep licking it and licking it and licking it until eventually he gets a little bit more feeling. Once he starts walking around and puts pressure on that leg, he'll probably go towards some water, and that will just replenish his energy levels. And then I would almost put my money on it that within the next week or so he'll find his way back towards the Pride. I mean, I started here almost 2 years ago now, and when I was here he was in the process of getting chased away, and so he's just latched on. He hasn't really been too intimidated by the two dominant males. I mean, when he's fighting or when he's getting chased away by them, he turns and he runs. He knows he can't win that battle. But what I've noticed, what he does sometimes when he's with the Pride, is he'll get up and he'll walk and he'll put himself between the cubs and the male lions. And so if the males come and approach him aggressively, and that's awesome, then the females will stand up for him. So yeah, he's a survivor and he's tenacious. He hangs on. So I am not worried in the slightest about him. We're going to try and follow them. They are moving into an area which is very difficult to follow. It's just very, very dense. It's as we start dropping down, it becomes more and more treacherous to try and navigate. And so if they have decided to move behind us, they're moving towards a road. See, there's still a couple that are here, the same two that we've just seen.
Oh, sorry about that. We are on a mission. We heard some impalas alarm calling. But just like James earlier, I think the males get themselves in such a state, they get themselves in such a tizzy over love, that it wasn't an alarm call, it wasn't a rutting snort, it was a psh, psh. When you hear that sound, that really sort of alert, forced psh, exhalation of air, that's an alarm call. Oh, look at this male with all his ladies. How many ladies does one need? The male's just at the back there. If it's followed by a then you know it's a rutting sound. So it's a bit confusing, but I think it's just the males being very confused. Now, going back to the giraffe stink bull, I thought James would know what I was talking about. There's lots of studies done. They do emit an odor, they really do, and it's only when they get older. So scientists believe that it's got a sexual function. And it also assists in the skin to repel fleas and sort of stop bacteria and fungi spreading over the skin. So it's got a few functions, and that's why they get the name stink bulls, which I thought was stink bomb. But the aroma in general is sort of said, I think it was a study that showed the ladies, or the females, are far more attracted to stinky bulls than they are to non-stinky bulls because of this chemical that's been released from their skin. And analysis of this chemical actually shows the compounds are the exact same compounds that are in feces, any mammalian feces, to make that horrible odor that we all know, including human feces. It's the same chemical compound that is released from the stink bull. And that's where that stems from. They do stink, and it smells like poo, which is not very pleasant, I know, but it is said to have a sexual function. And apparently the female giraffes love it. They show preference over non-smelly bulls. So there's actually a scientific sort of history to being called a stink bull. These ladies are all huddled together. There's a male BK, just there, one lone male, and all of these females. What are you going to do with them all, boy? Can you hear that? That is an impala rotting sound. That is not any sort of alarm calls. That's the boys being naughty. And the females always, they got a fright there. Tuck their tails in to protect their bottoms. That's where their genitals are, and that's where their anus is, and of course the female opening, the genitals. So they keep the tail nicely tucked down to protect it from all sorts of, well, insects, flies, fleas, anything that might want to land on them. So just like a tail swatter, it keeps their genitals nice and protected, which is important out here, of course. So that's why their tails are always tucked in. They do flick them out, they do use them for follow me signs, but in a normal sort of movement, they've got their tails nicely tucked in. Isn't this lovely? Just in the last remains of the golden light as the sun is going down. And that male is keeping them under his watchful eye. Now, many of you were talking about a hippo carcass. Picky actually messaged me about it earlier, and I did have a look. It said that Dewey actually killed another hippo, and the carcass is just... See, that sounds like alarm calls. It's initially very confusing, but it's not. When it's followed up with that deep guttural, you know that it's rotting noises. So yes, some of you believe there's a carcass at the dam. Well, I did check earlier, that's why I was there. Thank you, Picky, for sending me that message. But I don't know where James is. If he's in the area, he can also check. But I really did have a look earlier, and I didn't see anything. But we can check again. Dewey killed another hippo, I believe, which is common for male hippos. And there's said to be... I'll radio James, see where he is. And whoever's closer can check. But yes, there's said to be a carcass there. I really did have a look earlier. That's where we saw our water monitor lizard. But I really didn't see anything. But we'll check again for you all, I promise. But going back to the giraffes, I'm so fascinated by that bull. Looking at him from down up and how magnificent and tall he actually is. You've got to think about their anatomy. A giraffe's brain is about 5 meters, 15 feet off the ground. There's about a 2 meter gap, which is 6 feet, between the heart and the brain. So that heart has got to pump blood against gravity to the brain, and it's said for an adult giraffe to pump about 60 litres of blood per minute. And there's lots of sort of myths that giraffes' hearts are huge in order to pump the blood fast to the brain and defy gravity. But actually they're not that big. They're big for the big size mammal, but in relation to their size, they're really not that big. It's just that they have extra thick walls, very, very thick walls in the heart, and this is to deal with the pressure, the additional pressure from blood coming all the way back down, a 2 meter drop from the brain. So the heart isn't essentially bigger in relation to its size, but the walls are extra thick in the chambers. Okay, I'll get on the radio to James and see where he is, and while I do that, we are going to send you back across to Eric and his lions.
Little lioness has really been abusing the trees in this area this afternoon. But we were lucky enough to just we were actually on our way out, and we saw them all out in this open area, and they're looking like they are having a pretty good time. The females have moved slightly off, but the cubs are just behaving like they have been the whole afternoon, and they are really, really active and playful. Yeah, he's this. The bigger white one is such a bully.
He's just a good older brother.
So what we saw for a brief moment were of the 8 cubs, they split off into pairs, and they each went to a different lioness. As Sophia, who's watching all the way from Canada, you're asking if lions can purr. And Sophia, they can't. They can't purr like normal house cats. Yes, a cub, I think it might try it again. It's looking up at that same branch. It might try and jump up and grip that branch. But Sophia, they can't. They actually don't have the vocal cords to purr. So they're larger cats in the world. So these lions, leopards, tigers, and jaguars. Because they can't purr, they've got much deeper sounds. So they growl, they roar, or they saw. Ooh, that big one got teamed up on. I'm glad. Getting a taste of his own medicine.
He's just going to show his size over there.
Yeah.
I'm still the boss.
Yeah, Sophia, so the only cat, or the largest cat that can purr is a cheetah in Africa, and then everything smaller than that will be able to purr. But these lions don't purr. They show affection in different ways. They don't vocalize it as much. When they're communicating with one another, they communicate in these very low, soft grunts, and then they spend a lot of time doing, I guess, what a house cat does. They'll rub up against each other with their heads. They'll go and lie on top of one another. So they show affection in different ways. And crystal clear, are you asking how lions learn how to hunt? They learn, I mean, a lot of their skills are developed in playful times like this, I guess. How they learn how to jump onto something to bring it down, or potentially the ankle tap. And when they're playing around with one another, they will bite each other. But I think, so we're just going to switch to infrared so you can see them nicer. But crystal clear, I think one of the most important things for them to develop as a hunter is to watch the adults and watch their mothers doing it. And they'll be able to learn from them and figure out how they're stalking and why they're moving in a particular direction. And it just takes practice. I mean, the oldest of these cubs is just over a year and a half. And so they've probably still got at least another year for them to really start honing in their skills and getting better and better at hunting. Once they reach the age of 2.5 years old is when they'll probably join in the hunts a lot more. But they'll pretty much only be a skilled hunter from the age of their mothers. And that's probably about 7 or 8 years old. Or maybe even a bit younger than that, 5 or 6 maybe. But the males find it a lot harder to learn how to hunt because they've got that mentality of just sitting back, letting the females do the work, and then they'll come in and fight for the spoils. And so they've often got quite a hard time when they are independent, when they've been chased away by their... Sorry, this one's just got a massive stick it's trying to run away with. So once the males become independent, then they have to pretty much teach themselves how to hunt because they haven't really been practicing as much as the females have at that same age. So I guess it is helpful for there to be more than one. So in this particular scenario, there's 3 of them that will all leave together and hopefully hunt together. And just imagine, I mean, so not only looking at the amount of movement that these cubs are up to, but also the noise. I mean, they're crashing over branches, they're trying to break trees, they're rustling the grass, and these are all things that will give their position away. And so that's why these lionesses, I think, might have a hard time to hunt. If these cubs keep as active as they are now, they're going to have a very difficult time going unnoticed. So we are losing light. Marcel and I do need to try and find a road. So I think we might end up leaving these lions for now And whilst we're trying to find our way back to the road, I think we're going to send you to James to see what he's up to.
Finding your way back to the road at Ngala is sometimes extremely difficult, and I have had experiences there where I've driven around for probably a good 20 minutes off-road in a straight line and not come across the road, because the blocks are vast. Some of them are almost the size of this reserve. In fact, some of them are the size of this reserve. So, no easy task. Now, I've had a query from Sasha Morris in Johannesburg. Hello, Sasha. I hope you're very well. Wondering about if we know how many predators there are in this reserve, and if we know how many hyenas there are, and how many giraffes there are. Well, the answer to all of those questions is no, not really. Now, that's not a very good answer, but it's because the reserve is relatively small that we don't know how many lions there are here at any one time. So the lions can come onto this reserve and then they go off the reserve. But at a place like Ngala, which is much bigger, yes, you could probably figure out how many lions you have, because you could work out where their territories were. You would know how many leopards you have. We know how many leopards we see here, but they're not always on this reserve. We've got 3 or 4 females that we see from time to time, and about 3 males. And then, you get the odd visitor that'll come and see you every so often. Giraffes, no. Giraffes are much more difficult because they are not territorial. And so they will move on to the reserve sometimes, and then they'll go away for ages, and then they'll come back again. Hyenas, we've got one clan that operates here. That's the Djuma clan. It's about 15 members strong. But again, they will also move off and on the reserve. So you were probably expecting a much more simple answer, but I'm afraid there isn't a very simple answer to that question. But it's a good question. Thank you, Sasha. You can go and have your supper now. Satisfied? Well, I hope. Right. Thank you from Welsh on Safari, who's going to help me with my Welsh accent because he says it needs work. I think that's an understatement. And he says, I need to say, I'll be there now in a minute in a Welsh accent. I'll be there now in a minute. I'll be there now in a minute. How green is my valley? I'll be there now in a minute. I'll be there now in a minute. How green is my valley? Valley, minute. I'll be there now in a minute. Now I'm starting to sound Scottish. But at least we've left Mumbai behind. How green is my valley? Jones. I'm just trying to think of a Welsh rugby side. They're all Jones. Daffyd Jones. Daffyd Jones passed the ball to Ian Henson and out to Jamie Roberts. Jamie Roberts to... who's the outside centre? I can't remember. Lee Halfpenny coming in from fullback. George North concussed again. No, I'm North Country, England. George North concussed again. Thank you. Thank you, Welsh on Safari. You say I can say valley in a very Welsh accent, but the rest is all Indian. I wonder what our Indian viewers think about that. Let's go back to Lauren now and hear a perfect Scottish accent.
Perfect Scottish accent. If only. We're at the dam wall and it's too late, it's too dark now, but I just wanted to explain. I understand where it is thought that the carcass is. It's behind this dead knobthorn. So what you're looking at is, of course, the last remains of the sunset going down. And this tree in front of us, right here, BK, that's a fallen over knobthorn. It's dead. And you can see it's got lots of weaver nests hanging from it. Looks like a Christmas tree. I think it is believed the carcass is here. Now, I came earlier. I came because Picky messaged me. And from this angle, I don't know if BK can maybe sort of show you. It's very, very difficult for us to see. We look straight down the dam wall. I think it's going to have to be a person coming on foot. Just going to be really, really careful because obviously we don't have Morris, or completely coming round from the other side during the day and looking. We had a look today and really couldn't see anything. I can't smell a carcass. Thanks, Kirsten. Yes, it's too dark. But I did come earlier when it was light for this reason. It was kids' drive, so I didn't message it. And I didn't mention it, sorry. BK's going to go into IR. So then you'll at least be able to see the tree. So it's far too dark to see it now. But I just wanted to explain to you how it's very difficult to see. I think the dam cam can get a little bit of a view. But I really can't smell death. But that doesn't mean there's not something there. So we'll keep on it for you all, I promise. But from this angle, and obviously this time, there's no way we're going to be able to see it, I'm afraid. So we're just going to head back up to quarantine. I want to be on quarantine for the end of the drive, just in case anyone's lingering there. I can't smell anything, but it's believed there's a hippo carcass just here, pushed right against the dam wall. We can only see over the dam wall, not sort of on the walls, which is making it really, really tricky. But I promise between the three of us, we'll check. Pat, good question. Would vultures be there? Very possibly, but it depends on quite a few things. Now, the carcass is obviously not open, so it's not, well, I don't actually know if it's open, but I don't believe it is. So that's possibly why other scavengers, like jackals, hyenas, maybe even a leopard, Tingana was on this wall. Tingana was on this exact wall this afternoon, have not picked up on the carcass because they've not got wind of the smell. If the blood isn't oozing into the sort of air, they won't smell it. And second, most vultures, or at least the old world vultures, they use their very keen eyesight. And they spot kills from very far away. Now, if the carcass is tucked in the dam wall and it's not even visible for us, it could just be a case of nobody knows it's there yet. Nobody's seen it, vultures haven't seen it, and other scavengers have not picked up on the scent yet. So once it does start to decay, if it's there, I imagine, then yes, we're going to have hyenas at it, and other scavengers will eventually come. But as it stands at the minute, I just can't see anything. I purposely checked. I just didn't mention it because we were on Kids Drive. Not too pleasant to talk about a carcass. And yeah, it's a bit of a mystery. But we'll keep checking out. Trishala will be out tomorrow, so I can assure you either her or James will check for you. And we'll keep trying to look from all angles to see if we can see the carcass. Fascinating though. And it's also equally amazing that if it's there, then Tingana walked right past it. And he went down the other side of the dam wall. Still not been able to find him. I'm doing my last hope that he's going to pop out on this side. But this drainage runs along central as well, so he could also pop out on the other side. But you never know. Last minute leopard is always a winner. James got Mulwati last night. Wow. In an area that I did not think Mulwati traversed. It's interesting. We're starting to put the pieces of him together slowly, very, very slowly, but surely. Now, in the dark, you really can't see anything unless reflective eyes glow back at you. You really are completely immersed in darkness. So you're just looking for two little eyes reflecting back. Crystal. The rarest animal to spot at night is probably in this area your porcupines and your aardvarks. They are nocturnal, so they should be around at night time. We do not spot them. They're hard to spot. I've seen a porcupine once in my time here, and it was so magical. I was with Marcel taking photos of the stars, but they're not easy. And we find their tracks everywhere. We find porcupine quills, we find scat, we find, their tracks. But it's just not easy to find the animal. I don't think anyone's seen an aardvark here in our team. I could be wrong, but I think they're the rarest, Crystal. Oh, Kirsten's saying we've only seen a dead one, which is rather sad, but it shows you that they are around. They're just very secretive, very hard to spot, and especially when the bush is this thick, it's almost impossible. We're losing a lot of animals because they just disappear into the vegetation. But come winter, that all will change. But yes, I think, Crystal, that's my answer, is porcupine and aardvark. So as I do search for an aardvark to prove you all wrong, we are going to send you back across to James, who's doing the same as I am.
Well, I'm not looking for an aardvark, although I'll take it. We've got two impalas that were looking this way and alarming, but now they seem to be having a fight with each other. I've given up trying to tell whether they're alarm calling or having a fight. I also can't see any predator here, so I think they were just having a box. And then when we drove around, perhaps they decided that they should look at us. So just look carefully, though. We might be lucky with a last-minute leopard. You know how exciting it is to get a last-minute leopard in the last minute. Oh, 3 minutes to find a last-minute leopard, or a last 3-minute leopard. Let's have another listen. Silence. Except David. Look on the termite mound there. There is a bunny. The bunny has run away. There's a bunny over there. It's gone. Diana, Africa is cut in half by the equator, so in this part of the world it's winter kind of nowish between now and the end of August, so, well, I guess you could call this autumn for us, and then winter, June, July, August. And then in the northern parts of Africa, so countries like Egypt and Nigeria and Niger and Chad and Morocco and Western Sahara and Tunisia and Rwanda and Burundi and Sudan and Ethiopia, all of those countries are experiencing winter at the same time that those of you in the northern hemisphere do. And then a lot of those places, I mean places like most of Kenya and a lot of the Congo, for example, don't really have winter at all because they're on the equator. So they don't have any winter. There is a Steinbock. We're going to go to infrared now in 3, 2, There's a Steinbock. A nighttime Steinbocken. Let us see if the Steinbock finds the leopard by being caught by the leopard. I think it is unlikely, for a Steinbock is a wily creature. Looking for nice little morsels of greenery, buds, shoots, fruits, possibly the odd insect by mistake, which it'll spit out. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Lots of interesting little things and great lines at Ngala. We'll see you tomorrow at 0600. Till then, bye-bye.